Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Village of Ruidoso Workshop Meeting. Today is March 2nd, Tuesday. It's 8 o'clock in the morning. If you'll join me, we'll have a moment of silence, and then we'll do the Pledge of Allegiance and the salute to our state flag, and then we'll have a roll call. So please stand with me now. Pledge. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I salute the flag of the state of New Mexico, the Zia symbol of perfect friendship among united cultures. All right, thank you, everybody. Cold, crisp morning in beautiful Ruidoso, New Mexico. So now we'll turn to Ron Santa for a roll call, please, sir.
Good morning, everyone. Mayor Crawford.
Here.
Councilor Salas.
Here.
Councilor Letterman.
Here.
Councilor Eby.
Here.
Councilor Cornelius.
Here.
Councilor Jackson.
Here.
We have a quorum, Mayor.
All right, thank you very much, Mr. Santa. We'll move on to our agenda items.
And Councilor Coughlin.
Coughlin. Here.
Morning.
Item number 1 is discussion on Resolution 2021-13, Metropolitan Redevelopment Area Designation, making certain findings and determinations pursuant to the Metropolitan Redevelopment Code and designating the Village of Ruidoso Metropolitan Redevelopment Area. This one has a lot of good implications, and I know there's some excitement around. Samantha, are you ready to go?
Yes, sir. Good morning, Mayor, councils, members. This resolution is specifically designating the boundary of the MRA, and that's the extent of this resolution.
Okay. Does anybody have any questions for Samantha? I know we've had several meetings on this. How many meetings, public meetings? Was there 2?
3.
3. All right. And anything, anybody? So we'll have this one on regular agenda item?
Yes.
Mayor, if I may.
Yes, sir.
This designation report also goes into various conditions that exist within that district as well, such as blighted properties and
right.
whatnot. So, it's there's quite a bit to it that really sets up the stage to start making public resources strategically available for certain projects that are going to improve the revitalization of the area. So I just wanted to add that to it, Mayor, because I'd recommend that we put this on regular just for public awareness.
Right.
Yes.
I agree. And it's got a lot of good information with it. The report is, that I have, the final report's 21 pages. And so this has a lot of stuff that in a few years, I think will be the extent of just what is available through this will show itself. Anyone? Okay, so we'll have this one on regular agenda items. Item number 2 is discussion on Resolution 2021-14, a resolution making certain findings and determinations pursuant to the New Mexico Metropolitan Redevelopment Code and approving the Village of Ruidoso Metropolitan Redevelopment Area. Okay, now what's the difference between the two exactly?
Mayor, council members, this discusses the area plan. It talks about different projects that the village and our steering committee and the public have identified within this boundary and possibilities. So this talks about all the action items and funding opportunities that would be available through this. And so this just breaks down how the plan will be implemented, basically. Not implementation, but details of it.
Okay.
Sounds like that ought to be in conjunction.
With the first one.
Mayor, council,
Yes, sir.
with this plan, one of the things that's going to be, need to be considered a policy decision moving forward is actually setting up a committee or appointing one of your current committees to oversee the plan itself. We've had discussions of potentially adding this to the, recommending to add it to the housing board because there is elements in there for housing, or adding it to the planning and zoning board. Or if the council wishes, they could act as the planning board themselves, so that if there is public resources that are made available for projects, there's a system of vetting it similar to the Affordable Housing Act and how we work with the housing board.
Okay. Is your microphone on?
Yeah, it's on.
Okay. I just.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Tim, will we be able to get our Chapter 54 rewrite done, or at least going before some of this is done, so people will have, some of that stuff's going to change, probably.
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear.
Chapter 54, is it going to be started by then or in the process of, so some of these things will work in conjunction with the MRA?
Yes, we have signed off on it, and the recommendations from the MRA plan will be recommended changes in Chapter 54.
Okay.
Okay.
Thanks.
This will also be on regular agenda items. Item number 3 is discussion on memorandum of agreement between Capitan Public Library and Ruidoso Public Library to better provide services to the community. Diane, did you have something you wanted to add?
Mayor, council, I don't have anything to add. It's a real simple agreement between the two libraries where we share a catalog and we share each other's catalogs with each other.
Okay. Any questions?
Consent.
Consent?
Consent.
Okay. Thank you, Diane.
Welcome.
Item number 4 is discussion on first
Mayor,
renewal.
can we
Yes, sir.
go back? I'm sorry, I didn't catch this earlier on item 2, the exhibit map.
Yes,
That's another community. I didn't recognize the names of the street or something like that. So if we could get that corrected, Tim, or is this an example? I mean,
Let me see.
when I saw Pickles River, I said, uh-oh, where am I? So yeah, just, I mean, have our map from the other one there on page 4.
Page 4, it sure is.
Samantha?
So.
You see what he's talking about? On page 4 of item number 2?
I do not have it up right now. I've taken a note, though, and I'll look at it and get back with Site Southwest.
Okay.
It's definitely not our community.
No, it's Eddy County.
Anyway, thank you, Mayor.
You bet. Thank you for picking that out. I didn't even notice it. I assumed that it was what was in the first one, so thank you. Okay, item number 4 is discussion on first renewal agreement with Data Pros LLC for automated statement processing services solicited in IFB number 2020-009B. And that one will be Judy.
Yes, Mayor, Council, this is just the first renewal of the contract for utility bill processing.
And as far as I understand, everything's been A-OK, hunky-dory.
Yes, sir, we had a little bit of a mailing delay with the storms in Texas, but we're back up and running and we're back on date.
Okay. Consent? All right. Thank you, Judy. Item number 5 is discussion on first 5-year renewal agreement exercising the first of 2 5-year renewal options with Lincoln County for municipal solid waste delivery to the Village of Ruidoso, Gavilan Canyon Solid Waste Transfer Station. So this is the first of 2 5-year renewal options. Any questions for Jerry?
No, pretty standard.
Okay, and Jerry said everything was fine with that. You need to add anything, Jerry? I see you, Jerry.
I don't think his mic's on.
Is your mic on?
I was just saying, it is a good revenue for the enterprise fund.
Okay,
Everything is working good.
okay, thank you. Any questions, comments? Consent?
Consent.
Consent. Okay, thank you, Jerry.
Yes, sir.
Item number 6 is discussion on second renewal agreement with Ye and Associates, Inc. for professional engineering services for dam improvements, compliance, and planning projects for the Grindstone and Alto dams solicited in RFP number 2019-008. Mr. Kane, do you have any comments or anything that we need to discuss?
No, this one's pretty straightforward, Mayor, council members. It's just the second renewal agreement for engineering services. We've already given out 4 task orders. Everything's moving along pretty good. And we're going to 90% sometime this week, so.
Any questions for Jerry? For Randy?
Nope,
Nope.
Yes? Nope?
not from me.
Consent? That good for y'all?
Yep.
Okay, consent. Item number 7, discussion on task order RFP number 2020-005P-02 with Groundwork Studio for planning consultation services for a property master plan of Wingfield Park, not to exceed the amount of $48,543.75. Mr. Griego?
Good morning, Mayor, councilors. So this task order would be to direct Groundwork Studios to start the master planning process of the Wingfield Park area. We were successful in getting funding dedicated from the lodgers tax, for this project.
Okay. Anybody have any questions?
I do, Mayor.
Go right ahead, Counselor.
Rodney, does this master plan include across the street where the Village of Red also has their stuff right now? Is that going to include that, or just what's at the park right now?
So it would take into account all of the village property in that immediate area, including across the Center Street.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Any other questions? You want to have this one on discussion on a regular agenda item? Yes, sir, Counselor.
Mr. Mayor, just a quick one for Rodney. Rodney, could you give me a little more definition of what the outdoor event center is and where it is?
So the way that the park would be evaluated, number one, is going to be guided what was identified in the comprehensive plan. So in the comprehensive plan, it looked at possibly expand the concept that was came out of the comprehensive plan, looked at evaluating Center Street, the old annex, the annex building, the purchasing warehouse, and incorporating that into a larger park venue. Again, it is just a concept, so anything that would be specifically planned out as, an entertainment venue or that would come out of that plan. So it's really, nothing has really been determined yet. We're hoping that the plan would do that. including, public input and input from the village. I don't know if that answers your question.
It does, thank you.
Okay. We'll have it on regular items. Okay, thank you, Rodney. And by the way, they are really doing some good supervising down there in Midtown. They are really getting after it. Item number 8, discussion on amendment number 1 for task order RFP 2020-009P-02 with High Watermark LLC to provide professional environmental compliance, construction management, and inspection services relating to the Fema DR 1783 bridges in the amount of $31,478.05, including gross receipts tax. And so Judy, this one, or Karen, I'm sorry, is for you.
Good morning, Mayor and Council. Yes, this is an amendment to the task order we issued to High Watermark in support of the bridges. We had a gabion failure at Close Road Bridge, so High Watermark was assisting with that and developing a path to move forward. At the time of the failure, Phoebe, we talked about the task order for Close Road Bridge, and FEMA doesn't like the cost plus, so she didn't have a number really to give us of what would it would take to support that those efforts to get Close Road Bridge up as far as the work that was going to be done to fix the gabions and all the environmental compliance and reporting that was being done. So I have attached her actual expenses for her and her team. And being that this is a large project under the FEMA regulations, large projects are considered to be reimbursable for all eligible expenses. I did also include an email back from 2018 when we first started talking about High Watermark and their support. And that shows where Ashley Marsh at the time did confirm that High Watermark expenses were eligible. And then I did follow up again as we have a new contact at Department of Homeland Security, Greg Succo. I followed up with an email with him, and that also is attached as a supporting document for the change or amendment for this contract. So I will stand for any questions.
I've got one.
Go right ahead, Councilor.
Hi, Karen, it's Susan. This 31,000, is that an extra 31,000 after the gabion
Yes.
I thought that we weren't going to be charged.
Well, you're correct, not charged as far as Zia's efforts or Roper or the subcontractor for Roper. They agreed to remediate those efforts and at no charge. But the supporting the efforts that High Watermark have, there was environmental compliance and reporting to FEMA and such. They stayed on the ground and observed and such. Now, the council did approve the task order for the support of all bridges, and there was I think it was like 28,000 that was included for Close Road, but that was to take Close Road through closeout at the time. This expense is on top of that.
So this is like government free. It's not really free. They're supposed to send it back. But I think maybe what the councilor's asking, or at least I am, shouldn't we have had a change order or something brought to the council just to let us know? I know you don't have an amount, but there could have been an estimation of up to, or what? I mean, is that just me or?
No, sir, I think, Mayor, you are correct. I guess the hesitation was on High Watermark's part. And by the way, Phoebe Suena will be available at the council meeting for this to support this change or this amendment. So she will be able to answer all questions that you all have. But to go back to what you were saying, Mayor, the the hesitancy was that because FEMA doesn't allow cost-plus contracts, there was no way to gauge. I mean, right now, if we would have looked back, I don't think that I would have ever thought that $30,000 would have been the cost of their support. So that was her hesitancy, was I don't even know a number, and she didn't want to give a number and ask for a change. But yes, I understand the fact that it should have been brought forward, and I'll take the hit for that, because I should have brought something forward at least for the council to be aware of those potential charges.
Remind me, when was the date of the failure of the gabions?
It was in June. Let's see if I have that.
Okay, that's fine. I don't need that. In June was fine.
Sorry, I corrected. That's July 2020.
Okay, so going with what you had just said, I've got a concern. Apparently, it looks like they took 6 months, they billed us for 6 months worth of services. So there should have been more reporting going on during that 6 months, so we would have had an idea of what the charges were. And like Susan said, it's kind of like when we asked, will there be any charges? No, there won't be. There should have been a caveat that, well, we do pay high watermark for things. So it's kind of like after the fact, then all of a sudden, oh, by the way, here's your bill 6 months later, and then everybody's surprised that it's so much. I don't know. It could have been handled quite a bit differently in my estimation. I mean, especially a project like that, you don't wait 6 months to report your billing for.
Yes, Mayor, Councilor Coughlin, I agree. Like I said, it was probably more oversight on my part as far as being more aggressive with it. I was unsure of how or what the expense would be, and the involvement, as well as others like Koppler, that were involved, Mr. Koppler.
We don't even know what that bill looks like yet, do we?
Well, his was minimal, but I'm just saying other expenses, to include, the village's expenses as well, So I agree with you. We should have probably handled it up front a little bit better. And I hope this never happens again, but it's a lesson learned for me.
Well, we should have some protocols in. Manager, do you have any suggestions on this?
Mayor, Council, I'm going to be addressing this with Judy and Karen. And just to let you know, I did ask for a task order back in July after this happened, and one wasn't presented to me. After that, I did step in, and that's when we moved forward with getting this resolved. Phoebe's work that she provided was really did some quality assurance, and it put us in a position to resolve the issue. But I totally agree that the cost should have been presented up front. So I'll be addressing this with Judy and Karen.
I mean, at least a range. I mean, there should have been able to give us a range, because we do that all the way up to and whatever, but.
Well, she did provide us with a range back then in July, or I can't remember exactly when that was, Ron, that we were on the call with her. And then it moved forward, and we never heard anything else. So I stepped in later on and, dealt with the issue. But I'll be addressing that with Judy and.
Okay. Because I'm not disagreeing that it's not a valuable job, and that we really do want to make sure that bridge is going to be here long after we're gone. So, the peace of mind that it gives with high watermark, I'm with, but it's just the free, no cost, and I understand Roper and those guys, Zia, and spin out on their own expense on that, so.
Well, when we're talking about expenses, remember, it's not just the contractor. If there's these other supporting people that are that are a part of it, is, well, here's what the cost is going to be from the contractor, but then we do have the other supporting people.
Exactly.
Yeah, and that wasn't brought up at all.
Yeah, they're going to redo their portion, but to have oversight, we're going to have these expenses. If you don't want them, you need to let us know.
Right.
But
I agree with that 100%. Okay, well.
Mayor, and a lot of times when we take this type of approach, it's kind of like risk management on our side.
Yeah.
Making sure that we have the documentation so that when we did come to the argument of what made the event occur, we had the supporting document to say, no, you know, we have all this documented, how it occurred, what was inappropriate with the whole construction project,
Right.
be able to argue those points. So it's good to have, you know, somebody working on our side that's independent of that contractor and the engineer.
I totally agree, and I don't think there's a person here that would have not gone along with it.
Yeah.
Just didn't understand it. It wasn't made clear, so.
And Mayor, Council, if I can add to what Manager Dodge was stating, at this meeting, under his report, there's going to be a presentation on change orders. Since Manager Dodge hasn't requested that capital projects take on the risk management portion of change orders, so we have since then included a lot of steps to include at the time of developing not only scope of works, but like requests for proposals or information for bids. We have, I feel like we're starting to implement a lot of steps that will prevent change orders in the future. I think that's going to be valuable for us as far as the capital projects and developing a path forward on addressing these issues a lot sooner.
I would agree. Yes, sir, Counselor.
Since FEMA's going to reimburse this, I have a little bit less problem. But should this have not been negotiated into the settlement agreement with Zia and Roper? I mean, we had inspections and some of these services that we already paid for, and now we're having to pay for them again. It seems like that was a cost that should have at least partially been borne by them.
Mayor, Counselor, to your point, we weren't presented with this information until after Zach and I had negotiated this settlement agreement with Zia.
Yeah, well, when you're redoing everything, maybe that needs to be on sort of the checklist of things we find out. If luckily, we're going to get reimbursed, but if this was out of pocket.
Mayor, Counselor, we were aware of the additional costs from the attorney, but we, you know, I didn't know that this was coming forward until a couple of months ago or a month ago or so.
Okay. All right, we'll learn from this one. Anybody else?
We've been doing a lot of learning lately.
Yeah, we have. And just when you think you know
Really
it,
smart now.
Okay, item number 9. Discussion on application for law enforcement protection funds, LEPF, for Class 1 municipalities and counties pursuant to Chapter 29, Article 13, Nmsa 1978 for the July 1st, 2021 through June 30th, 2022 fiscal year in the amount of $32,000. Chief Hooker?
Yes, sir. Good morning, Mr. Mayor, councilors. The Law Enforcement Protection Fund is something we get every year, and it's mandated again by the statutes that you read there. We get a flat rate of $20,000, and then $600 for every certified officer. That gives us the total of the $32,000. So all this is to ratify that the state is going to give that to us, and then that monies can be used for anything basically that touches a police officer.
Any questions for the chief?
Chief, what designates a Class 1 municipality? Because I know dealing with other stuff, we've talked about Class A counties, which is basically Bernalillo, and now all of a sudden a Class 1. I just was curious.
Because it goes down, Mayor, Councilor Coughlin, your question in reference to where we are, it is just a breakdown as far as the size of the, whether it be the jurisdiction, a city, or the county, as far as how much money you get. Other populations will get a larger amount initially, but we all get the $600 for a certified officer.
But as far as that Class 1, is that the highest classification?
No, sir, it's the lowest.
So it's a backward system?
Basically, yes, sir.
Okay. Yeah, I was kind of like, wow, Class 1, how do we get that? Okay, thank you.
Okay. We want this one on, and I apologize, I assumed that item number 8 would be on regular agenda items.
Yes.
And so this number 9, does anybody have any other questions of the chief? So do we want this one on consent or? Consent. Okay. All righty. And Hooker, have you started planning your retirement shindig?
Well, you know, with COVID around, Mr. Mayor, there's no telling what it'll be like.
Oh, so yeah, you just don't want anybody to know about it, so just put it on Facebook and have it in the county. We'll all show up.
There you go.
Go to El Paso.
Yep. All righty. Okay, that one. Item number 10 is, and you should have a little handout with this one. Okay. This one goes with the item. It's a map and some breakdowns on expenses. This one is an update on the stormwater improvements on the Horton complex, and this one will be presented, explained to the fullest extent of human reasonability by Mr. Boyda.
Mayor Crawford, councilors. So I just wanted to give some updates and walk through the design for the village components of the Horton Complex stormwater management, and then how that connects into the other projects that are occurring on site. And so if you guys remember, this has been a really long, drawn-out process. And so the last preliminary site layout that we used as the baseline for the designs was this setup. So we had, we have the magistrate court on the left side of the map, and then we've eliminated the water shop building. And so the magistrate court is going to be handling the civil design layout for their area that they're leasing, and it will tie into our management system. We're not going to be doing anything in the center around the shop building, but we're instead focusing in on the kind of the core parking lot area and the school property. And so in our designs and surveys, one of the biggest complications of the project has been this location here. So right at the main entrance, the elevation here is too high, and so previously there used to be a step down into that main entrance. And so this is causing us issues where all the water in this location wants to drain straight to what's going to be the main entrance of the building. And then from there, it slopes downwards. So you can see that, again, this is one of the higher points in the drainage of the property. And so based on that survey data and our needs, this is the site layout that we've come to adequately manage the drainage and stormwater based off of this main parking lot area. And so we've got the back area, the school area, and the area in front. So you'll notice here this kind of hatch marking on the plan set. That is an area that is going to be repaved, and so we need to regrade this area to drop down its elevation so that this water doesn't rush down to the door. So we need to have adequate slope away from the main entrance, and this pavement the sidewalk and pavement in the front needs to slope down and away from the door. And to get that, we have to do this site grading at the front of the property. So here's a close-up of that grading. We also have 5 handicap parking spaces, and we've met our parking space requirement. Samantha had her staff help me with the calculations for the parking lot requirements, so we do actually exceed the current requirements for our built component of the building with just the village property parking area. So the drainage off the parking lot is going to be go down towards the front of the building, and then it will be captured in these detention basins. That based on the grade, these shouldn't have an impact on the foundation, and the water will be carried underneath the secondary entrance on the east side, underneath a culvert into another ponding area. And so this area here, this grassy area, this is where the entrance is going to be now. And so there'll be a swooping curve that will allow proper access for emergency response vehicles, and then also provide a good spot for people to drop off people at the front entranceway. And then the old entrance is going to be removed and then returned to a ditch similar to the upper portion here you can see in the photo. We did originally have plans to try to modify the ditch along the road, but because of the cost of the grading, we are eliminating that component. It will be cleaned up though, and it can be reshaped, but we won't do any type of landscaping planting there. And so this is a picture at that front entranceway where the interior project is going to be building the entryway. And so almost a little bit past the right side of this photo, that's how far out that entrance awning is going to stick out. So this area will be enclosed in that awning. And then in the back side of the property, we've got the parking lot requirements for the court staff and the dispatch. Will be able to be in a secured parking lot area. And this area will be graded to get the drainage to a reduced size ponding area. The current ponding area that we have in the back is actually bigger than it needs to be. And so we'll shrink that down, and that's going to allow for vehicles to be able to drive in and then do a turnaround and back into the courtroom area if they need to drop off prisoners or anything. And then the interior project is going to be doing a small entranceway off of this door on the east side. And then we'll be eliminating parking on this side of the property so that we have adequate clearance way for vehicles to drive to the back. So then for the minor improvements on the school side, I had, again, Samantha's staff help me determine what was kind of the parking lot arrangement at the school as it is. And we counted about 62 parking spaces available. With the improvements that we're proposing here, including eliminating some of the paved area with a catchment basin to carry the stormwater off of our property and then catch the stormwater coming off of the school's property. We actually, with parking lot rearrangement and efficiency, pick up additional parking spots there, raising the total to 76. And I apologize, this schematic doesn't have the parking lot hash marks, along the bottom of that stormwater. And then there would be a row of parking up in that paved area between the two facilities. And so our stormwater will run down through here. There'll be a culvert underneath the secondary entrance awning to this final basin, and then it will run down. And so the school's basin will be right where these cars are parked, right to the south side of this sidewalk that is around the school admin building. But with the rearrangement of the parking lot, we'll actually gain parking area in that location. So our engineer with Riverbend Engineering has done an estimate for the project based off of the Albuquerque. So Albuquerque publishes all of their municipal contract unit prices that they get for all of their bids, and that is what the engineer uses for their estimation. Because of the current situation with COVID and Ruidoso's kind of remoteness, Chris has added a slight increase in estimate and put a 20% buffer on the Albuquerque numbers. And then because we're having these two projects overlap with the interior of the building and the exterior, we were looking at using White Sands Construction for this project also, so that there's not two general contractors at the same time fighting for space. But White Sand Construction is likely to subcontract most of the work. And so Chris included a 15% possible markup for subcontractor works, and then also built in a 15% buffer for the construction estimate. And when we include all that in the GRT, the estimated construction costs are $440,000. So right now, Chris is working with Catlin at White Sands Construction and then their architect for the interior of the building, because some of Chris's estimated costs might actually already be covered in the construction estimates for the interior of the building. And so we're making sure that there's no duplicate efforts between the two, the engineer and the architect. So hopefully we'll be able to reduce that a little bit. And then the other thing is the connection between the two sites. And so there's been this discussion about, when the magistrate court is put in, there's going to be potentially busy moments for the court that's going to overflow into the main parking lot area. And so when the AOC is doing their design for the facility, we need to make sure that there's an adequate walking way from the main parking lot up to the entrance of the magistrate court. And so this area just directly west of the main entrance, so this is the cafeteria where the Boys and Girls Club is, our design proposal ties into this existing pavement. So there'll be a walking path to here. This sidewalk wraps around the building to this point by the entrance for the Boys and Girls Club. And so we just need to discuss with the courts to include the paving of this area to continue this sidewalk along, and then designating a portion of this asphalt area, possibly with a railing for a walking path, and then on the other side of the shop building to tie that into the main entrance for the the court.
Eric, can I interrupt you right there?
Yes.
So right where that picture is a perfect example of where not to put a sidewalk, because you can see that patch of snow just past the dumpster along the side of the building. That is a shaded area during the winter. If we get any snow, that becomes ice for weeks. So we wouldn't want that being a method for people to walk between the two properties. It should be over on the other side of the building, where you've got sun that can melt that off. That is total ice right now, and your picture has the example of that snow being there.
Sure. Well, and we can.
And that sidewalk would all have to be replaced anyways, because where that snow is, there's some major dips. Back on that last picture where you showed the cafeteria, so at the far corner of that building, that is a big dip there in that sidewalk. When we get any kind of rain at all, it's a puddle. You're going to get your ankles wet. So that almost all needs to be replaced along there with new concrete at proper height. There's also a gap between that concrete and the building, so that water is then coming in and creating potential issues with that with the structure there.
Okay. Well, we'll.
So just something to keep in mind. I mean, I'm there all the time and I see what happens during the poor weather, but those are some issues to consider.
Okay. And we'll take those recommendations into consideration when we're working with the civil design contractor for the magistrate court. So I'm sure that we can kick off a new sidewalk off of this side too, but yeah, that sidewalk that is around the building, there is a little spot that's busted out, and there is some modifications that probably need to occur there eventually. So with that, I'd be happy to entertain any questions or concerns.
I don't have any questions.
So Eric, I have another question. In your design there, that shows the drainage, the area to the bottom of the Boys and Girls Club, and then in the middle of that parking lot, you've got it looks like little green arrows that are pointing towards the building. Is that indicating which way the water is going to be directed?
No, sir. That is showing a green space area that is not being set up to infiltrate water. And so we have certain landscaping requirements and tree numbers that are required per acreage. And so these green space areas will give us the space to meet those tree planting requirements and landscaping requirements.
Okay, got it. And then in that diagram, there's like a gray square, a rectangle. That's where the Boys and Girls Club currently has a garden. Is that going to have to be relocated?
No, sir. That should fit into the...
That would be able to stay?
Yes.
Okay. We don't want to get started on a project for this year if that's got to come out of there.
No, and if you look, you might not be able to see it, but if you zoom in there, you can see the fence that you've installed around the garden.
Right.
There. So we don't have any intention of removing anything there.
Yeah, I didn't know if those were just current locators for reference, because it also kind of has the layout and the curbing for that little parking lot that's in front too, which appears to be something that's going to be taken away.
Yes, but we'll gain those spots back from that small parking area being removed by changing that entrance location. We'll gain back all those spots.
What's the time frame for getting this done?
So right now, Catlin at White Sands Construction, he requested that we have the plans to him by mid-March, so he can review all of the plan sets. And then he's looking at doing a request for bids in the last week of March and early April. And so this would occur in tandem with the interior construction of the building. I don't actually have a time frame for the total construction, but I would imagine it would be probably a 3 to 4 month job. And so we'd be looking at probably starting in May, I imagine, is when we're trying to start the project.
Okay, I only asked because I didn't want it to interrupt any possible early voting, since they use that one section of the building there for early voting.
Okay.
Which should be fine.
Yes, sir, Councilor Cornelius.
Eric, are the schools on board with this, and are they going to participate with some money on their part?
Mayor Crawford, Councilor Cornelius, our first step was to get your guys' review of this proposal, and then Rodney is setting up a meeting with the school district again, and Tim and I were going to engage the school district to get a parking lot sharing agreement that would give us easement to do these stormwater improvements on there. But so far, there's been no discussion about the school district putting any money towards the project.
Okay, thanks.
Anyone else?
Answer to the questions.
Anybody? Everybody's pretty good with this?
Mayor?
Yes, sir.
I just want to, bring up that, one of the reasons that we asked to highlight this, and we're also going to be asking that we have every quarter a potential quorum meeting at our capital projects meetings that we have on Thursdays, just to keep you all more informed. But what we're seeing with the Horton complex as we're building that out, we've set aside $750,000 for that project. But with all the requests coming in, it seems like the prices just keep escalating on what that's looking like. So, by mid-March, we should have a tight number on what it's going to look like on the construction part of the Horton complex. We just got some information in on the tower that's showing, that the evaluation of that originally recommended 180 feet, and it looks like to make the telemetry work, the calculations are closer to 400 feet.
Oh.
So
They're just off by a little bit.
Yeah, they're just off a little bit. But that's just, the type of things that we're running into, and it just creates other complications.
Okay, so on that tower, is that all an expense the village will have to supply, or will that come through the?
My understanding is that the tower would have to be an expense of the village. And, I have no idea what a 400-foot tower would be, if there's other options of adding repeaters or whatnot. So we just got that information in just as we were talking and going over this. So some of those things need to be evaluated as we move forward and have discussion on that. But, it just appears that, one thing after another on this project.
Well, ain't that the truth?
Yep.
So what we need to do with this, they're asking, this is just an update, so are we being asked to approve this next week?
Is there consensus that we move forward? The next thing that we're going to do, this is the engineer's estimate. The next process would present this to Catlin, and Catlin would cost it out, and then we would have a hard number, sometime in April. And I don't think that there's a cost to us moving forward with costing it out in April. I think we just really wanted to make the council aware of, how extensive the drainage is going to have to change before, before we occupy the building to make it work.
Okay.
So we can in April bring back a hard number, and then, that way you'll have a look at the hard number, the actual cost of what it's going to take to proceed forward with this project.
And we're not going to have to go out for an additional quote on this? We're able to work with White Sands since, how does that work? I thought with this amount of money, we would have to go out for an additional quote.
They have a contract, an existing CES contract. So they actually bid it, it's bid the states, and they bid on a unit price.
And then one other question is when the AOC comes in and all of this runoff, water catchment, and all this other stuff is going to be figured into the construction of that property?
That's correct. AOC's currently, they're going to be giving us a presentation next week, but they are currently in the process of finalizing the procurement of their court building. And after they do that, then they'll have the designer on board. Their projections are they'll have the project complete, designed in June, and have it bid and under construction by July.
Yep.
I think they're pretty optimistic and thinking that they can build this in a 6-month period, but we've had several conversations with them that if they don't meet the timelines, then they're going to have to pick up the cost of the debt service, going beyond January, February of next year.
Okay, so what we're needing is a consensus to move forward with getting a hard cost estimate from Catlin over at White Sands. So, by, I guess, a nod if y'all want to move forward.
Which shouldn't cost anything, so.
Okay. All right, well then Mr. Boyd, I guess you'll get with Catlin and we'll start moving that process forward.
Yes, sir.
But Tim, when you're talking timelines, July, that would be hopefully the monsoon, season, so they've got to figure that into account. Because if they're going to be ripping up concrete and asphalt and whatever, you're going to have a big old muddy mess.
Okay.
Especially if everything's sloping towards that way anyways.
Yeah, hopefully that catches it.
And Mayor,
Regular item, Mayor.
Yes.
Regular item.
Mayor, and on this tower issue, I think I probably need to have a conversation with that designer, but there is opportunities to look at, and this is one of the things we need to consider moving forward. Anytime that we approve a tower, like American Towers, to put a tower on our property, we need to explore the opportunity of cohabitation, putting one of our repeaters on their tower so that it just provides better coverage for the whole area.
Yeah. That could even apply to the radio station or whatever.
Yes.
So Tim, does anybody have any idea that the tower that they put in over near the hospital that looks like a tree or whatever, the approximate height of that?
I think it's not a very tall tower in comparison to the one that we're looking at.
No. Yeah, because a 400-foot tower is a 40-story building.
Oh, yeah.
And it's like, you've got to be kidding me. And it's only 3 times the original estimate.
There has to be a line of sight to the repeater over here at the current station.
Right.
And that's what they're trying to reach, and it's an extremely high tower. So there may be other opportunities if there's other towers that, or private towers that we could put a repeater on there and bounce it off. But we really need to, sit down with that individual that gave us that proposal and look at how that telemetry works.
Mr. Mayor.
Yes, ma'am.
Chief Hooker, isn't that, we were talking about that in consolidated dispatch. Is that because of the mountain that's just right there behind the Horton complex?
Mayor, Councilor Lutterman, right now I'm just as shocked at seeing that email this morning because Rick's never said anything about needing a tower that tall. So to answer your question, I can only assume that that's it, because if he's trying to get line of sight back up here to our tower existing at the police department, that may be what it is. But I agree with Manager Dodge. There may be other avenues and or other resources to look into.
Okay, thank you.
Another option may be placing a small tower on top of Moon Mountain, and then that way you would have coverage further because it's higher and you'd need a smaller tower to get the line of sight. So there's just other options I think we need to look at.
Okay. All right, well, that concludes the open portion of our meeting. We'll now move into closed session.
Mayor, I just asked Rodney to, as far as the Wingfield Park Master Plan, just going off of what Susan asked as far as the properties, could we get a map of all the properties that are going to be underneath this master plan and kind of a general idea of what you are looking at as far as integrating the properties together or not? Just so that we'd have a more general idea of what they'll be looking at. Also, the public will be able to be aware of what's being looked at as far as all the properties.
Yeah, he's on there.
I'll take care of that. I'll send it over to Bertha today, and it is the conceptual plan that came out of the comprehensive plan.
Okay, thank you.
Mayor, before we move into executive session, can we go over the other items that have been moved to the regular meeting?
Okay.
Ron?
Mayor Crawford, members of the council, for the March 9th regular meeting, we have the approval of the governing body minutes for the 9th of February, March 2nd workshop meeting. We have a ratification of adoption of resolution 2021-12. That's the resolution declaring an emergency, and that was for the snow event that we had. We also have a request to schedule a public hearing, quasi-judicial. This is in conjunction with the planning and zoning meeting today that's happening. We have on the mayor's reports and presentations, we have a proclamation for National Service Recognition Day, introduction of new village employees, reports from all village departments. This is on the manager's report. We have a report by Justin Huffman, the Director of Tourism. We have the presentation of the Village of Ruidoso 2021-22 strategic plan. We have an update on the Midtown Sidewalk project. We have a report from AOC on the Magistrate Court building project. And we have a presentation by Sauter Miller and Associates, and this is on change orders. We have on our public hearings, we have 4 public hearings for approval of transfer of ownership of dispenser license. These are for the Allsup stores that were sold, so we'll have 4 separate public hearings. We'll have the Metropolitan Redevelopment Area Draft Plan, which will be a public hearing, and then we'll have the preliminary development plan to operate outdoor recreation activities, and this is on the James Townsend tract. On the regular items, we have the discussion and possible action. This is on the purchase of the Type 3 fire engine. And that's will be included with the items that we have today that'll be moved over. So,
what about the ordinance that we're looking at on the salary and compensation?
We will have that also as a request to for a public hearing for the April meeting. So we'll have it as a publish the ordinance, to request a public hearing. That'll be on this.
We're going to do that next week for April?
Yes.
I'm sorry, Mayor, I didn't understand what you just said.
This ordinance right here, Councilor Cornelius is putting it up that it reviews salary and compensation of the mayor and council for the Village of Ruidoso, amending 232A of the Code of Ordinances, Village of Ruidoso. What we've done is done a survey of other communities and whatnot to put in to find out, because it's been brought up many times over the last, I don't know how many years since I've been around, that the $500 a month just is inadequate sometimes to even cover expenses, and that is to review that and then make a recommendation. And there's several options, tying it to the county pay plan like they do, having a percentage of things like that, but just to review what's going on. So we have all that information that'll come out, and then we'll have it scheduled for a public hearing in April.
Got it. I
I thought that since I wasn't running again, it wouldn't hurt me to give you a raise.
Yeah.
Thanks, John.
Get paid the same as the county.
Mayor Crawford, I did have a question on the presentation from Eric. Were we going to move that over to the regular meeting? That was just a presentation for now. We're just going to move forward with that process, and then when we
We
have,
can just move forward with it.
yes, okay.
Don't you?
Yes,
Okay.
it's not an action item.
Right,
Just a
right, okay.
discussion.
I thought it said regular item on that, but okay, just clarifying. Thank you, Mayor.
Mayor, I just wanted to state that I still got a couple more communities responding to me on that survey that I conducted on that, and Las Cruces also ties there in a similar fashion, except they're 4.5 times what the county commissioners are.
I'm sorry, say again? They're 4 or 5 times more?
The merit is that, I can't remember the counselors that looked at it real quick last night, but the mayor of Las Cruces is 4.5 times the county commissioners of Doña Ana.
Wow.
If you do that, I'm not leaving.
Yeah.
But the mayor and council over there actually, just like Albuquerque, they actually have like offices and administrative aides and things of that nature, much larger community.
And really, we've talked about this before because counselors do so much more than just show up for a meeting once a week, once a month, or even 2 times a month. You know, and just all the meetings that you're asked to drive to and be to, and the phone calls and all the different things. And then, you know, in today's climate, you know, it's not very popular to be a public servant. You know, you're going to get kicked in the teeth for whatever reason. And so maybe if you get a few extra $100 a month, maybe it won't hurt, or I don't know.
You could get your teeth fixed.
Yeah, you can get your teeth fixed, but maybe there'll be other people who want to run, so who knows.
As long as they're not running for the money, that's the
Yeah.
wrong reason.
Well, it's not going to be enough.
No, it's not going to be. But then I know also like Ruidoso Downs, when I talked to Councilor Romero over there, he's like, you get paid what?
Yeah.
And so, yeah, it's.
Or you could be on the school board for 20 years and
Get
Not get it,
bumpkus.
yeah. Oh, never. School board, no. I would never take that job.
That's what people say about mayor, too.
No, it's worse. I think it's worse. You're dealing with people's kids.
I get it all the time. People say, I can't believe you do this. That's ridiculous. Okay, we'll move into closed session. If there's nothing else to be brought up, so could I get a motion to include the 3 items that we have listed: personnel matter, attorney-client, and purchase? Our wordsmith has left us.
Yeah, he left. He gave
can
me
we
the.
just say all of that?
Okay, I'll do it because he gave me the motion to leave, yeah. So, Mayor, I move we go to closed session for discussion of limited personnel matters, 1015-1 H2 Nmsa 1978. Also discussion subject to attorney-client privilege pertaining to threatened or pending litigation in which the Village of Ruidoso is or may become a participant, 1015-1 H7 NMSA 1978, and discussion of the purchase, acquisition, and/or disposal of real property and/or water rights by the Village of Ruidoso, 1015-1 H8 NMSA 1978. Any action taken as a result of the closed action will be brought back into open session.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and second. Comments, questions? Nope. Roll call, please, Ron.
Counselor Coughlin?
Aye.
Counselor Cornelius?
Aye.
Counselor Salas?
Aye.
Counselor Letterman?
Aye.
Counselor Eby? Thank you.
All right, thank you. We will now go into closed session.
Mayor, can we invite Judy and Eric in?
Sure.
Cover their items first?
Judy and Eric, you guys want to come in first?